Hey guys, it's Stephanie, and today we're going to talk about some running tips for those of you that think that you're not a runner. So today we are going to talk about some different running tips for you. Now I know not everybody likes to run, and when I say that I love to run, people think I'm crazy. But really, running is a great exercise. It's a good cardio. It gets your heart rate up. There's lots of pros to running, along with some cons, but definitely more pros. And I've been running for a really long time, and I've ran many races, and I've done even marathon. I've done a marathon, but lots of half marathons and 5Ks in the process. Just keep listening, and we'll talk about some of my favorite tips. My first tip is to just go ahead and sign up for a race. Then you have a reason to train and work towards a goal. You can mark it on your calendar, see how many days you have until the race, and go from there. There's lots of programs out there. There's the Couch to 5K program. If you have not run at all, that's a good place to start. But there's lots of different training programs and things on the internet that you can go ahead and find. My favorite person's program is Hal Higdon. I used that for my first ever half marathon, and it really worked well, and it got me to have one of my best times I've ever ran. So I do think it's worth picking one of those programs online. It doesn't have to be something you pay money for, but at least that way you have something to work towards. Now, I'm not saying go out and run your 3 miles or your 13 miles the first day that you start training. That's why those training programs are really good, because they can get you to build up your strength and to get to those longer mile days. My next tip is to get yourself some good music or a good book to listen to while you're running. I like to use my AirPods and an Audible book. I normally listen to Harry Potter books, but recently I've ran out of those. I listened to all 7, so I've moved on to other books. But if you have a good book to listen to, those miles just don't seem as long as maybe they once were. The other thing is make sure to get outside and run while it's nice out, because no one likes to run on the treadmill for 5-6 miles or whatever training you are doing at that time. Another tip is to find yourself a good trail or a good path that has something good to look at, or even if it's just in nature, something that can get you motivated to go and run. I'm lucky that I have a nice trail near my house, and I can just jog down about a half mile and jump onto it and go that way. I like to go out and back, so then I know exactly what I am going to be doing. If I have to go up a hill going there, at least I know I'll be getting to come down it on the way back. Some people like to actually map out routes you can use. You can go ahead and use Map My Run. It's an oldie but a goodie, and there's a nice app for iPhone for that as well. And you can figure out your mileage if you don't really like to go out and back. I know some people don't. I do, just for convenience sake. And I also like to get myself a good watch. Now I do have the Apple Watch. I can just go to the running person, click outdoor run, and just start, and it counts my miles for me. As you run more, you'll kind of figure out where your mile marker is, your 2 mile marker, your 3 mile marker, etc. But it's good to have some sort of device that can measure it for you, or if you're using that Map My Run app, then you'll at least know how long your run is. My next tip is to go ahead and set your mileage before you start running. Now, sometimes I'll write it out on the calendar, especially if I'm doing a specific training program. Then I'll just go ahead and write down 3 miles for today on my calendar. But otherwise, I just kind of think ahead and decide that, hey, I'm gonna do 5 miles today. That way you have the goal already set, and you won't have to worry about it. Now, when you get out there and you find that you're not really ready to do whatever mileage you set at that time, then obviously just knock it down and don't go as far. But I feel like when I make the goal, then I am determined to finish it. Another tip is to get yourself a pair of some good shoes. I am partial to Asics. They are my favorite pair of shoes, and I have bought many different pairs in my life of Asics, I suggest going to a running store, and they can actually fit your foot and find a good pair for you. And sometimes they even have you run on the treadmill so they can see how your foot's falling when you run and find a good pair for you that way. There's also Saucony's, there's Brooks, there's lots of different types. I know some people like New Balance. There's many different types of running shoes. I don't suggest Nike if you're doing long distance. They're just not always so great for your ankle support and your arches when you are doing those longer distances. Another tip that I have is to stretch after you run. Now I know a lot of people, they don't stretch before they run, they don't stretch after, and then they're super sore and they don't want to run the next day. I actually don't prefer to stretch before running. Now, I have been a runner for many years. I started back in middle school running cross country, and we used to stretch before practice and we used to stretch after practice. But as I've gotten older and away from the routine of practices, I found that stretching afterwards actually helps me the best. That's when your muscles are the most loose. That's when they can start tightening and getting sore. So I do find that that is the best to do. There's lots of good stretches out there to help specifically for running. Once again, the internet is a great source to use for those as well. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you got a few running tips out of this video. I hope you keep on subscribing, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.